Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Garrett Russell, and unfortunately, this week I was the only one who was able to see A Quiet Place Day One. Sadly, but I will be doing this review solo, and I will be talking all the spoilers about the movie, give my verdict first, and then we'll get into spoilers last. So before we get into that, just want to give my thoughts on the first two Quiet Place movies. I'm a huge fan of the Quiet Place series in general. The first movie was something that kind of came out of nowhere and became kind of almost a phenomenon, and it was so unique from almost any other horror film that had come out at the time. Or I consider more I consider Quiet Place more thriller than horror, but like still like that in that area of film, the Quiet Place movies were so unique of an idea from everything else at the time, and I think John Krasinski did an incredible job with both films. I think they're both almost equally as good as each other. I think the first one is a little bit like more better, and originals tend to be, even when a sequel is really good, sometimes you're just going to always prefer the original, but the second one comes damn near close to being on that level. um, and the second one introduces a ton of new elements, like introducing a great character by Cillian Murphy, expanding the world and how society has learned to live in this hellscape that the world has become, with these creatures that kill you whenever you make the tiniest sound. Um, so yeah, I love the first two movies a bunch. Um, and originally, like, I don't know where that came from, but sorry about that. So going into this prequel, Day One, where it goes to, the first two movies take place months and months later after, the the invasion of these creatures started. And the second one did have in the opening scene a flashback going to Day One from John Krasinski and the whole that family's perspective. But this goes to the perspective of a completely new set of characters, and it takes place in New York City. Um, and it shows, how society fell because of the invasion, and how some of these characters learn to live on and adapt to their surroundings, and how others could not adapt and ended up dying very quickly. And a lot of people die in this movie. So we're following in this film, the main character is played by Lupita Nyong'o, who plays the character of Sam, and she's going through something in the movie that I won't really go into until we get into spoilers, because I think that is a huge element to the film. So she's, you know, the movie starts off, the first 10 minutes are basically just establishing the real world, with none of, the crazy stuff happening yet. Everything's fairly normal. But the character of Sam is going through kind of a hardship, and she's in the city, and she's with this group of people, and one of the supporting characters is played by Alex Wolff. And then the invasion happens. Things go completely berserk, and they basically have to find a way to survive this invasion. And Lupita Nyong'o's character comes across this other character played by Joseph Quinn, and they have to team up together to survive. So very simple premise, like the other two movies. This one almost feels like, while the other movies kind of feel unique in how they approach this kind of thing, where it's like, I would imagine like a movie, like a Walking Dead movie, let's say, that the first movie in this Walking Dead film series takes place like in season 5 of the show, and then by the third movie you actually go to season 1. So it's kind of interesting. And this movie almost feels like a zombie apocalypse film in certain parts, especially in the beginning when things go awry. Um, and this one is directed by Michael Sarnowski, I think is how his last name. He directed a terrific movie a few years ago called Pig, with Nicolas Cage, which is an amazingly refreshing and unique revenge thriller, unlike most other revenge thrillers of its kind. And you really get the sense like Michael Saranowski, he has more of like a artistic voice than a lot of other directors. And when I heard that he was actually in charge of directing this prequel, I was very curious. But I also was very skeptical because, most prequels, and especially horror prequels, tend to be quite terrible. There's not many good ones out there. But the thing about that is, we had a really good prequel, a horror prequel this year before this movie, and that was The First Omen. And you guys know that I absolutely love that film. And now we have another one, and this is the second good horror prequel this year. This movie, I was stunned by this movie. Honestly, really kind of like I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed the movie. Um, I don't think it's quite as good as the other two, but like there's certain aspects of this movie that I think are actually better than some of the aspects in the other two. Maybe not so much the story, because I feel like the other two movies have a better overall story, and overall better like story progression and all that. But in terms of like character development and real human emotion, like I was not I was almost kind of not prepared for the level of like emotional investment I was going to have with the characters in this movie, especially Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. Um, because both of them are incredible in this film, to be honest. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o is one of the best actresses working today, and she's proved that with every single role she's been in, ever since 2013 with 12 Years a Slave. And she has a ton going on and a ton to fight against in this movie, not just these monsters, but also, what her character is dealing with before all this happens. And the movie actually really goes deep into that. And the movie spends a lot of time, despite, you know, the, the concept of this series is that the characters have to communicate most of the time without really actually saying it out loud. And they have to communicate it mainly with visuals, with sign language or in some kind of visual way that doesn't involve a lot of talking. And this movie, I think, does that, escalates, is able to, boost that concept up even more compared to the other two because um, with the family in the other two movies, they already kind of, because of they had that daughter who was deaf, they already knew sign language, so you already got a sense that those kinds of people would survive much easier in this kind of world than others would. And so these two characters that we have in this movie don't have that advantage. They have to do they have to do more clever thinking about how they communicate with each other. They have to think about more ways to get out of certain situations. I was really impressed by how well they maintained the quality of the series because at this point in many other horror franchises or thriller franchises, the quality dips by the time a third movie even happens. And I'm just so glad that they're still able to maintain this level of good suspense and good character acting and just really intense horror sequences. It was really impressive. Um, and I think Michael Saranowski, you can definitely feel his influence if you've seen the movie Pig. And I think this is his second movie, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with his other work, if he has it. I'm sure he's worked on a few other things. I just haven't. I've only seen this movie and Pig, and you can definitely feel his kind of artistic voice throughout this movie because the movie doesn't have has less of the the suspenseful sequences than you would think. This movie actually spends a lot of its moments with these characters, establishing what they're going through, and what how they're going to get through everything, and the hardships that they're encountering even with each other. And I thought all of that was done very well. I was actually kind of I was a excuse me, I was about to get kind of teary-eyed by the end of the movie, and the ending shot especially, which I'm about to get into in the spoilers, is just, I was kind of stunned that the movie really had the guts to end this movie on something like that happening. And I thought it was very brave of the writing and the directing. Um, so yeah, my final verdict on this movie, I thought I really thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and I was going in with quite a bit of doubt that that they would still have the level of creative integrity, and they would still maintain the quality that the series has brought to us before, but they really did. They did not crap the bed with this one at all. And this movie just, it was a roller coaster ride, just like the other two movies. So if you're a fan of the first two movies, absolutely go out to see this movie if you like those a lot, because I think this one is very close to that level again. So I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10, whatever works for you. So now we're gonna get into the spoiler section on The Quiet Place Day One. So if you haven't seen the movie, I would go watch the movie first and then come back to this once you've seen it. So 3, 2, 1. This movie has my favorite cat character in recent memory, with Frodo, and yeah, the character, Lupita Nyong'o's character's name is Sam, and the cat's name is Frodo. So obviously they knew what they were doing there. But no, the cat was I enjoyed the cat so much in the movie, and like legitimately, like the cat, was a good, I don't think it was used as a plot device or it was used as a cheap gimmick throughout the movie. The cat really did feel like a character in itself. The cat, guides the characters in certain moments. The cat's smart, like most cats are, and the cat almost pretty much gets the characters out of danger in a few scenarios. So absolutely love the dynamic between Frodo, Sam, and Joseph Quinn's character, like thoroughly. I'm not even joking about that. So yeah, what Lupita Nyong'o's character is going through, and it's established very in pretty much the opening scene of the film, is that Sam has a form of cancer, and she's very very slowly dying, and she's on she doesn't have that much longer to live, and she's in this she's in this facility where she can be cared for, and Alex Wolff is pretty much the caregiver for all these other patients. And what brings them to the city and where everything goes from there is that they're going on this trip to this marionette puppet show thing, and that also sets up a certain backstory element with Lupita Nyong'o's character in sort of a clever way of foreshadowing. But yeah, Lupita's character Sam really wants to get pizza, and it's not for like a slight or just standard reason for wanting pizza. Like there's actually kind of a heartbreaking reason for that, and I wanted pizza. As soon as this movie was over, I got a pizza for lunch. Yeah, I never thought I would care so much for a slice of pizza in a movie like this, like legitimately. So yeah, from there on, after they leave the marionette show, Sam's character is going for the pizza, and then that's when the meteors hit, and that's where these creatures come out, and everything just goes completely berserk from there. Now, one of my issues with the film is that it really does seem like the characters like the world itself or the city at least, and the government, some like I feel like they learn too quickly about how these creatures operate, like how they operate solely by sound, that they can't see anything, that they just simply operate that way, and they immediately know to be as silent as humanly possible, um, because how the opening scene goes after the meteors hit. The character of Sam gets like knocked out in the city. She's covered in ash. The title drops then, and then it cuts to her, and then the connecting piece of tissue in this movie that connects it to the other two movies is that Jaimin Hansu's character is in this one, and of course he was in the second film. Um, and of course this is before the stuff with him happens, and before they go to that island in the second film where they can actually live normally from everything else, because these characters, their main weakness is that they can't swim, so they can't go across water, and that allows them to get to safety. And so that's basically the goal for the movie, is that they're trying to get everyone off New York by boat, and that way they can live, hopefully get somewhere where they can get away from all these creatures. So but yeah, like the characters are already, like, as after right after the title drops, everyone's operating in that, in the way that they operate in the first and second movie. Like it feels like it happens too quickly, and I'm not sure, maybe in between when she gets knocked unconscious and then when she wakes up, maybe a day happened, and maybe, I don't know, it just feels like it happens so quickly to the point where it's like it does feel kind of unbelievable. Like maybe maybe that's a testament to how smart the characters in the world are in this franchise, but knowing how stupid and how slow-minded the human race can be when it comes to like times of crisis like this, you would think like this kind of thing would take like weeks to figure out, but no, apparently they figured that out in like a day or two, which is kind of ridiculous, and which is kind of ridiculous to me. But regardless of that, yeah, they are trying to get everyone off, and then Sam's character goes off on her own from the group, um, because she wants that pizza really badly, and then she runs across Joseph Quinn's character, who is very much so, in anxiety. He obviously, when you see him, he's heavily breathing. He's having trouble like reconciling, even when when Sam is trying to communicate with him, because it starts raining in the city, and so obviously there's enough background noise going on where they can actually talk um, to each other softly, and even then, Joseph Quinn's character is still having trouble communicating with her. Like there's a moment where he keeps saying, "Okay, okay, okay." Like clearly he's going like this, like anyone with anxiety would in a situation like this. He's freaking out, and as someone with anxiety, that immediate, excuse me, that immediately came across to me, and how it was performed and how it was written. So very clever in that area. But no, at first Sam has no interest in uh, going with Joseph Quinn, but Joseph Quinn you, like feels almost helpless, and so he feels like he has to go with at least someone, and honestly, yeah, I completely would. If I were him in this situation, I wouldn't want to be alone. I would want to, go with someone and be, someone chaperone in this situation. And Sam is reluctant to do that at first, but over the course of the movie, they do form a sweet bond, and they learn more about each other, and how Joseph Quinn, is a young law school student, and he's from London, or London or England, same thing. But No, he's from England, and he says how his parents wanted him. That was their, main, uh, their main dream of him to accomplish, and that became his dream as well. And obviously, he doesn't know if he's ever going to achieve that. So there's that kind of fear in him. Um, then we find out a little bit more about Sam and how she used to be a poet. And there's a scene where they're in the apartment together while it's raining outside and it's higher up, um, and the thunder's going on, so they can talk more freely. And he starts going through an old book of poetry from her, and it's a very sweet and tender scene, and you can definitely feel like this is the guy who did Pig, and this is not from someone who was a director for hire, and you really feel like this was a director who really wanted to who really wanted to bring a kind of like independent feel to this film, and I'm so glad they did that because it really does feel like a really tender scene, and there's a pretty powerful moment where the characters, having learned more about each other and how Sam, the reason why she has an attachment to this one pizza place called Patsy's is because her father was a musician. If I'm now, sometimes when you see a movie once, your memory kind of it takes me a few like multiple viewings for me to remember every little thing that happens in movies. So I did see the movie like yesterday morning. So yeah, how her father used to be a musician for this club, and after several shows, they would go eat pizza at this one restaurant afterwards, and because of what she's going through with her cancer, she feels like one more, time, one more little thing like that, will give her more, kind of closure, and it's really oddly way more emotional than I ever would have expected from a Quiet Place prequel movie. And it's really powerful, and it leads to this moment in that scene where the thunder's going on, and every time a lightning thunder strike happens, they have a moment where they can like literally scream out their frustration and their angst, and there's a really great musical score during that scene. It's really powerful, um, way more powerful than you would expect from a movie like this. So then the characters are trying to find, for not only they're trying because Joseph Quinn reluctantly agrees to go get pizza with her. So yeah, it's a quest for pizza, and it's also a quest for them to find these rescue boats to get off the city, because if you see in the trailer that they blow up the bridges and stuff. So all that happens. There's several intense sequences involving the creatures, and then I'm gonna go ahead and skip to the ending. So they find the rescue boat. There's a lot of creatures around, of course, and they have to find a way to get to the boat because it's already pretty much set off, and it's already went off the dock, and they have to find a way to catch up with it. And the only way to do that is by literally swimming to it. And there's a great sequence where um, a bunch of creatures are alerted in the city, and there's like a whole army of them. And Lupita Nyong'o finds a distraction in a bunch of cars to set off the alarms, and this allows Joseph Quinn to run through all these cars, setting off these alarms to get them off of him. And luckily, he manages to uh, jump jump off and alert the other boat to their presence, and they manage to stop in time, and he gets on board. But um, Sam agrees to stay behind, and because she already knows that she doesn't have that much longer to live, and she, you know, getting that pizza in that scene with with Joseph Quinn's character in that club scene, and it one of my probably my favorite scene of the film, is when they're in this club. It's very quiet. There's almost no music, and they silently, they get across so much emotion and so much information without saying anything, and without the ASL like they do in the other movies. There's so much visual storytelling in this moment of the film because they finally get their slice of pizza. They get that closure with that, and there's a really sweet and emotional moment where Joseph Quinn goes on the stage of this club, and he performs like a magic trick for her. Like they're imagining like there's a whole room full of people in there when there isn't, and they almost act like they're doing like a talent act or a magic act, and it's just a really touching moment, man. Like I truly I did not expect that much from this movie. Like, and getting that kind of stuff from it was honestly more than I could have ever asked for. So yeah, the movie basically ends with Sam writes a letter to Joseph Quinn's character. He reads it, and it basically thanks him because at the start of the movie with when the two of those characters meet, Sam is reluctant to like go along with him. She wants to go off alone, and but over the course of the movie, she really does come around to thanking him for allowing her to feel this closure of life, and it's almost a movie about learning the meaning of life in some way in the middle of this apocalypse. And that she, at the end of the movie, she has closure, or enough closure, and the ending shot of the film is her with earbuds in listening to this old jazz song, and she stops the song and then unplugs the headphones or the earbuds and alerts the creatures of the presence with the music, and then the movie ends with a creature. The movie ends with cutting to black after a creature basically kills her. And that kind of like, oh my God, guys, like the balls that a mainstream studio movie has like this, after two extremely financially successful films, to end a prequel movie in a successful, big franchise like this nowadays, it's kind of inspiring in a way, and it's a very haunting yet kind of uplifting ending in at the same time. So yeah, I kind of love this movie. I'm not gonna lie. After kind of having suspicious thoughts about it, like it's a really kind of sweet movie, and it's not only is it intense like the other two movies are, it still has enough of that emotional core that the other two movies have. And in my opinion, I think in terms of like the character emotion, like I think this movie does that better than the other two. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie much more than I thought I would, in ways that I didn't even expect to. So yeah, guys, what did you guys think of A Quiet Place Day One? What did you like it? Did you have problems with it? Let me know, and definitely if you have spoiler thoughts to talk about it in the comments, do make sure to like leave a spoiler warning before you do that. So that's all my thoughts on A Quiet Place Day One, and I hope you guys check out the rest of our content soon. Take care.
We have been the Cinema Asylum Podcast. You guys were awesome. Thanks for coming out.